In the 1990s, people could still vanish. No phones to trace them, no cameras on every corner, only the road, the dark, and the silence that follows. 4 disappearances. 4 ordinary days that turned to static on the edge of history. Tonight, we dig into the decade where the lost could truly be gone.
June 7th, 1992, Springfield, Missouri. A night meant for caps in the air and new beginnings. Graduation night. Stacy McCall and Susie Streeter had walked across the stage just hours earlier. One of the last moments anyone would ever capture of them alive. Blonde, smiling, arms over each other's shoulders. They were symbols of that suburban summer sweetness, frozen in time. That night, they bounced between parties, taking photos, hugging friends. At some point after 2 a.m., they left to sleep over at Susie's house. It was supposed to be safe. Susie's mother, Cheryl Levitt, a 47-year-old cosmetologist, was already home waiting. By morning, the house on 1717 East Delmar Street held 3 women. By the afternoon, it held only questions. There were no broken locks, no forced entry. The beds were unmade, but not messy. All their purses sat untouched in the living room. Cigarettes unlit, keys in place. Susie's car still in the driveway. And on the front steps, shards of glass from the porch light. Shattered. Whatever happened, happened fast. Silently. With no clear sign of struggle. Susie's and Stacy's friends came by around noon, wondering why no one had shown up to their plans. They wandered through the house, calling out. Nothing felt wrong. Until everything did. Phones rang. Then someone checked the answering machine and heard a voicemail. The message was strange, disturbing, possibly a clue. But before anyone thought to record it, the message was accidentally or intentionally deleted. That single detail has haunted the case ever since. The police were called eventually. They dusted for prints, interviewed neighbors, asked for tips. But from the beginning, this case had that scent of the uncanny, where everything is out of place, yet nothing seems obviously criminal. There were rumors, of course, a jealous ex-boyfriend with a history of obsession, a theory that the women had been abducted and buried beneath the parking garage of a local hospital, a lead that prompted cadaver dog alerts, but no permission to dig. There were even whispers of sex trafficking, tied to shady characters allegedly operating out of the area in the early 90s. Rings of predators who knew how to make people vanish completely. One man claimed to have information that would crack the case wide open, then recanted. Another said he helped move the bodies, but offered no proof. A psychic described a field near water. A detective dug there. Nothing. But the most chilling part isn't what's been said, it's what hasn't. In over 3 decades, not one piece of physical evidence has surfaced. No bodies, no confirmed sightings, no definitive suspects. It's as if the Springfield Three simply evaporated. Families waited. Reporters asked. Psychics offered images of wells, forests, basements. Retired cops returned to the case in their twilight years, drawn back like moths. In 1997, a tip sent investigators to a concrete parking structure near Cox Hospital. A ground-penetrating radar scan picked up 3 anomalies, roughly human-sized, beneath the surface. But with no legal way to excavate without stronger evidence, the anomalies stayed buried. What if they're still there? What if we've driven over their graves 100 times, never knowing? In later interviews, police admitted mistakes. Too many people had walked through the home before it was secured. Fingerprints were likely contaminated. Evidence, whatever little there was, may have been erased before it could ever be preserved. Sometimes it's the silence that screams the loudest. And then there's the psychology, the what ifs. Would Cheryl have answered the door that night? Would Susie, protective of her mother, have stepped in front of danger? Would Stacy, caught in the middle, have tried to run? We'll never know. The community changed, the street was repaved, the porch light replaced, but the memory remains, as if stitched into the air itself. There's a haunting lack of resolution to the Springfield Three. No ransom note, no confessions. Just an echo, left behind in an empty house, where 3 lives once intersected and ended, invisibly. The case file grows heavier with time, not thinner. Each year adds another layer of absence. You start to forget the names, then the faces, but not the story. Even in the age of endless information, the mystery remains pure analog, a reel of tape that loops but never plays to the end. They were gone by dawn. It was a warm morning in Belen, New Mexico. September the 20th, 1988. Tara Calico, a 19-year-old college student, packed her Walkman, laced her shoes, and headed out for her daily bike ride along Highway 47. She was bright, organized. She told her mother she'd be back by noon for tennis. Tara was the kind of girl who kept a schedule. That's why the worry came quickly. By afternoon, there was no sign of her. No word, and nothing. Her mother, Patty Dole, searched the roadside. Later that evening, police found only shards of Tara's Walkman and pieces of her cassette tape, broken and scattered, as if someone had stomped them into the ground. Her neon pink Huffy bike was gone. The case grew colder by the hour. Witnesses reported seeing a light-colored truck following her that morning. Others saw a second vehicle, possibly a camper or van, but no license plates, no arrests, no answers. Tara's disappearance might have faded into the background noise of America's Missing. Another small-town mystery. Another headline turned memory. Until June 1989. A Florida parking lot. A woman walks into a convenience store in Port St. Joe and spots a Polaroid face down on the asphalt. She picks it up. The image is crude. No signature, no timestamp, but unmistakably human. A teenage girl, bound and gagged with duct tape, stares into the lens from the back of a van. Her eyes are wide, afraid. Her wrists tied. Her knees drawn up. Next to her, a younger boy, similarly restrained. Both lie on a striped pillow and what looks like a blue blanket. There's no background in the photo, only white walls and shadows. But what struck investigators most was the girl's eyes and her resemblance to Tara Calico. The photo was broadcast nationally. Tara's parents, Patty and John, believed it was her immediately. The scar on her leg, the cowlick in her hair. Even the book in the image, a novel from the Sweet Valley High series, was one of Tara's favorites. The FBI ran facial recognition. Scotland Yard weighed in. The results were inconclusive. Analysts couldn't say it was Tara, but they couldn't say it wasn't. The boy in the photo? Some speculated it was Michael Henley, a 9-year-old who had vanished while on a camping trip in New Mexico just months before Tara. But in 1990, his remains were found in the Zuni Mountains, not far from where he vanished, likely from exposure. That only deepened the mystery. If Michael died near his home, then who was the boy in the van? And where was the girl? As the years passed, the Polaroid became both evidence and icon. It represented the fear of a generation, that someone could snatch you from your routine, tape over your mouth, and make you into a photograph, 2003, Sheriff Rene Rivera of Valencia County made a stunning claim that Tara had been killed the same day she vanished, accidentally hit by two local teenage boys while they were driving recklessly. According to Rivera, the boys panicked, disposed of the body with help from their families, and kept quiet. But Rivera said he didn't have enough evidence to file charges or name names. The theory was simple, almost too simple. Tara's family didn't believe it. No confession, no body, and no reason to think these unnamed boys would have had the resources or confidence to make her disappear so completely. More troubling still were later claims from witnesses who came forward years after the photo's discovery that they'd seen a young girl resembling Tara held captive in a trailer home in the 1990s. The trailer moved locations often. Every time investigators closed in, it vanished. A woman reported seeing a girl tied to a bed, surrounded by adults who threatened her. Another recalled a party where a girl cried behind a curtain, face bruised. Both descriptions sounded eerily like the girl in the photo, but once again, the leads dried up. The FBI eventually declared Tara's case cold. The photo, once hailed as the break that would solve everything, became more myth than proof. Still, theories persist. Some believe Tara was abducted by human traffickers, a fate that fits the vagueness of the evidence. Others think she knew her abductor, that it was a local, someone who understood her route, her habits, her timing. In 2021, the FBI announced that they were launching a renewed investigation into Tara's disappearance. New technologies, new interviews. But so far, no public revelations. The Polaroid remains its own kind of prison, one where the answers seem just out of frame. The image has been dissected endlessly. The brand of tape used, the pattern on the pillow, the smudge near the van's window. But none of it has led to Tara. Her mother, Patty, held on to hope for years. In interviews, she would say, "I know she's alive. I know it." But time has a way of dulling even the sharpest certainty. Patty died in 2006. John followed in 2002. Their daughter remains a phantom riding down a sunlit road, frozen at 19, with a Walkman clipped to her hip, and plans waiting back home. Belen still remembers. Her friends still post tributes. Her case still haunts forums, podcasts, and late-night discussions. We like to think we're safer now, that GPS, cell phones, surveillance cameras would have saved her, that our digital lives are too traceable to simply disappear. But the truth is, for every Tara, there are others, still missing, still unphotographed, still out there, somewhere just beyond the edge of what we can see. The road she rode is still there, long, straight, open, the kind of place that feels safe until it isn't. Because sometimes the danger isn't hiding in the dark. It's driving behind you in plain daylight. They were known affectionately as the Boys. 5 men in their 20s and 30s, all with mild intellectual disabilities or mental health conditions, bonded through basketball, families, and routine. February 24th, 1978. The Yuba County Five, Gary Mathias, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, Ted Wire, and Jack Madruga attended a college basketball game at California State University in Chico. They never made it home. They were expected back that night. The next day, their own team was scheduled to play a Special Olympics tournament. Jerseys were laid out, snacks packed. Their parents said they wouldn't miss it for anything, but they never arrived. Days later, their car was discovered, a turquoise and white 1969 Mercury Montego, abandoned on a remote snow-covered logging road in the Plumas National Forest, 70 miles from Chico, 50 miles off course from their usual route home. The car was in working order. Keys gone, but no mechanical failures. Tires weren't stuck. The gas tank was a quarter full. There was no reason they should have been there. That was the first mystery. The second was what came next. Months passed. Then, in June, a group of motorcyclists stumbled across a ranger's trailer deep in the forest. Inside lay the body of Ted Wire. His feet were badly frostbitten. He had lost between 80 and 100 pounds. His beard was grown several inches, indicating he'd survived for possibly 8 to 13 weeks after the group disappeared. On a shelf were dozens of unopened cans of food. In a locker, heavy clothing and supplies. Everything they would have needed to survive. But Ted was wrapped in sheets, cold and emaciated. No fire had been built. The trailer's heating system hadn't been touched, and food, despite being within reach, had gone unopened. Nearby, police found the bodies of Sterling and Hewitt, their remains scattered by animals. Later, they found Madruga's body, partially consumed, lying outside the trailer. The fifth man, Gary Mathias, was never found. Only his sneakers were discovered inside the trailer. No trace of him since. What could make 5 grown men abandon a running car in freezing conditions and trek up a mountain in the dark? There are theories. Some believe they were forced off course. Others suggest they were following someone or something. A lead once suggested they stopped at a convenience store late that night and bought snacks. A clerk confirmed it, but it's unclear why they were so far off route. Ted's family described him as incapable of making such a journey on foot alone. He didn't enjoy the cold. He wouldn't have survived in the woods voluntarily. Matthias had schizophrenia, but was stable on medication at the time. Some believe if the group panicked, he might have led them away from safety, or perhaps tried to help and vanished in the process. The area where the trailer stood was brutal. Snow drifts over 6 feet. Temperatures well below freezing. But they had shelter. They had food. They had light. So why didn't they try to survive? Some speculate that the trailer, while safe, felt unfamiliar, too strange for them to trust, or that confusion and fear overtook logic. When fear takes over, even the familiar becomes foreign. Others whisper stranger things, a forest hermit, a wrong place, wrong time scenario with violent locals. Some even link it to serial killers or cults rumored to pass through the Sierra Nevadas. But there is no sign of foul play. No weapons, no blood, no visible wounds that couldn't be explained by the cold or wildlife. Just confusion. Quiet, suffocating confusion. A military-style flashlight was found near the car, possibly dropped as they exited. Some tracks were spotted early on, but melted before they could be preserved. Dogs found no useful scent trails. There's a specific horror in cases like this, where the facts are known, but the reasoning isn't. Where evidence exists, but not understanding. Why didn't Ted eat the food? Why did he starve to death, inches away from salvation? Why was the car abandoned in working condition? Why did they head uphill into snow, rather than back down towards civilization? Why was Gary Mathias's body never found? And why were only his shoes in the trailer? The forest holds no answers, only echoes. Jack Madruga's mother later said, they wouldn't have gone up there. Not on their own. And maybe that's the key. The car didn't stop working. The men stopped trusting it. Or perhaps something or someone told them to move. Or maybe they believed help was close. That they'd find a cabin, a ranger, a road. That if they just walked a little farther, the cold would lift and the lights would appear. Instead, the dark only thickened. The snow deepened. And what should have been a detour became their end. What was supposed to be a quiet night, a basketball game, a routine drive, turned into one of California's strangest cold cases. To this day, no new evidence has surfaced. No clear theory has replaced the fog. The case lives on in podcasts and forums, whispered as the American Dyatlov Pass, a nod to another, more famous disappearance in the Russian wilderness. But here, the snow is different, the silence longer, and the missing more familiar. The Yuba County Five weren't explorers. They weren't thrill seekers. They were 5 young men with plans, with families, with laughs, caught forever on birthday tapes and home videos. Now, they're a question mark etched into a logging road, a place where reason broke down and the map stopped working. They were found in spring, but winter never really left that case. February 14th, 2000. Valentine's Day. In Shelby, North Carolina, a storm moved across Cleveland County, bringing rain, wind, and darkness. Power flickered across homes. But in one small house, on Oakcrest Drive, a light was already fading. Around 6:30 a.m., Asha Degree entered his daughter's room to wake her for school, only to find the bed empty. 9-year-old Asha Degree was gone. Her backpack was missing. Her bed undisturbed. No forced entry. No broken windows. Just a door quietly shut behind her sometime before dawn. That morning, buses drove past rain-slicked roads. Children exchanged candy hearts and red pencils. But at Falston Elementary, one desk sat empty. And by noon, a search was underway. Asha wasn't a troubled child. She was quiet, shy, deeply religious, and tightly bonded to her family. Her parents, Harold and Aquila, were strict and loving. There was no abuse, no chaos, no running away before. Nothing in her world suggested danger or escape, but several witnesses came forward saying they saw a young girl walking alone along Highway 18 in the early hours, between 3:30 and 4:15 a.m. It was cold, rainy. She wore a long-sleeved shirt, jeans, and a backpack. She was walking south, away from home. One driver turned around, concerned. As he approached, he said the girl darted into the woods. She didn't wave. She didn't speak. Then, nothing. That was the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree. What would make a child, just 9 years old, leave her home in the middle of the night during a storm? At first, the theory was that Asha had been lured, that someone had groomed her from afar. But this was the year 2000. The Degree family didn't have internet access. There were no chat rooms, no social media. Asha had no cell phone. She didn't even have a diary. Just books, pencils, drawings, and her brother O'Brien, who slept just feet away from her when she left. Police brought in dogs. The scent led to a shed half a mile from the house, then vanished. Inside the shed, investigators found a candy wrapper, one Asha had likely received at school just days earlier. It was the first real clue, and the last one for over a year. In August 2001, more than 18 months after she vanished, Asha's book bag was discovered during a construction project, 26 miles from her home, in the opposite direction from where she was last seen. It had been buried, carefully. Inside were her favorite pencils, a concert t-shirt she didn't own, a New Kids on the Block notebook, and, most disturbingly, a photograph of an unknown young girl, around Asha's age. To this day, the girl in the photo has never been identified. The backpack was wrapped in a plastic trash bag. Police called it intentional concealment. It changed the tone of the case entirely. Asha didn't run away. Someone hid what was left of her. But who? Theories have come and gone. A known sex offender once claimed responsibility, then recanted. Other leads pointed to long-haul truckers, someone who could have snatched her and traveled far before anyone noticed. Some believe she got in a car willingly, thinking she was meeting someone she trusted. But there's never been solid evidence, never a confirmed suspect, and never another sighting. The FBI, state police, and local officers have revisited the case repeatedly. In 2020, they released an age-progressed photo of what Asha might look like as a young woman. The family held on to hope, but the silence remained deafening. Her mother, Aquila, has said, "Somebody knows what happened to my baby." And it's hard not to agree. Someone does. The story of Asha Degree hits different, because it doesn't feel like a story. It feels like a wound, one that never fully heals. A child walked out into a storm, without reason, without goodbye, and the world swallowed her up. There's something unnatural about a child missing from her own bed, something deeply wrong about the way the clues point in every direction, and nowhere at all. One psychologist called Asha's case statistically unique. Stranger abductions of children her age are rare enough, but self-initiated departures, especially under those weather conditions, that early, with no digital influence, are virtually unheard of. Asha Degree walked into a kind of myth. She became part of the last generation that could still vanish without digital trace. And she did so at the very edge of a new millennium, as if crossing a line between eras and leaving behind only footprints in the mud. Each year on February 14th, the Degrees hold a walk from their home to a missing persons billboard that bears her name and face. They still knock on doors, still search, still believe. The pain is permanent, but so is their love. In 2020, the FBI offered a $25,000 reward for information. In 2021, they reanalyzed old evidence with new forensic techniques. Hope flickered, but no major developments came. The girl in the photo found in her backpack remains unidentified. So does her abductor. What we know is this: Asha Degree was not reckless, not lost. She was a little girl with basketball dreams and a packed lunch for Valentine's Day, who walked out of her home into a storm and into the unknown. The rain that morning soaked the leaves, the ditches, the shoulders of Highway 18. And somewhere under that same gray sky, Asha walked alone, 9 years old, heart full of something we'll never quite understand. And someone out there knows why.
Tara Calico rode her bike into the desert and was swallowed by heat. The Springfield Three vanished behind a front door that never broke. The Yuba County Five followed something, or nothing, into snow and never returned whole. Asha Degree stepped into a storm before dawn and dissolved into legend. None of these stories end with answers, only echoes. This was Tapes of the Lost. Sleep well, mortals, if you can.